That's what the purpose, that's what, like when we talk about an anointing, there's an anointing on your life. That means God has revealed your purpose to you and those around you. That's why it says that Samuel anointed David to be king. Where? In the presence of his brethren. Because God wasn't just showing him, God was also showing them. Now I'm going to tell you something. When you get your anointing in the presence of people who don't yet have their anointing, sometimes your anointing is annoying. Am I telling the truth this morning? Sometimes they're like, no, hey, you remember when Joseph got his anointing, don't you? God showed him in a dream. Hey, your brothers are going to bow down to you. Your parents are going to bow down to you. Joseph made the mistake of revealing his anointing to those who would be annoyed by it. And they were so annoyed that they thought about killing their own brother. Like, I can't imagine killing anybody, but my own brother? I sure can't imagine that. And then they said, well, let's don't kill him, because we can't make no money if we kill him. Let's sell him. You know what? That's a good idea. Let's sell him. And they sold him to some foreigners. And they took him into a foreign land. What in the world? Like, what are y'all thinking? Well, what I'm thinking is his anointing is annoying. Right? So, hey, let folks know, don't you let my anointing annoy you. Because it's not your anointing. Because I'm sure not going to let your anointing annoy me. How many of y'all tracking? Wave at me, my people. So what you understand, when you understand David gets anointed, now what happens? Now David becomes one of Saul's soldiers. And Saul invites him to a dinner, picks up a spear, and tries to throw it through his heart. Like he puts out a contract on David. He tried to kill him. Then he put out a contract on David's life. David is running from Saul for his life. He can't find anywhere to go, so guess where he goes? He goes to the Philistines. He feigns madness, and then he gets recruited into the army of Achish and the Philistines. So David is serving in the enemy's camp. Now, here's what's really interesting to me. There's so many parentheticals in this story that anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and tell it. So what's really interesting about God and what we see in the Old Testament, what we see oftentimes throughout the Old Testament, is that when God got ready to deliver his people from oppression, war, or bondage, he would often take the leader of the deliverance out of their protected religious environment and put them into the palace of the king. Why? Because when Adam and Eve sinned, they abdicated their kingdom authority to Satan. And you go read the story in Genesis chapter 3, like Adam and Eve, in Genesis chapter 1, God gave Adam and Eve authority. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion. Dominion is authority over. Adam and Eve yielded to Satan, so they yielded their authority to someone who was under them. Now what happens? If you look at what began to happen after that, the seed of Satan, the descendants of Satan, the descendants of Cain, Lamech, they began to build kingdoms and name those kingdoms after their children. And the children of God began to build altars. And so Satan was using kingdom principles that God wanted to use to establish his kingdom. He was teaching them to his children so they could establish Satan's kingdom on the earth, because the earth is the place where God intended for his heavenly kingdom to be expanded. So Satan said, I couldn't take over heaven, but so now I'm going to try to take over earth.